Meeting is now called to order. Any items from the public? Records show there's no one from the public. I need a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved. If there's no other items to change, I'll second that.
It's been moved in second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Ayes have it. Any questions on the purchase order log this week? Winding down this fiscal year, so. All right, and we do have a number of budget revisions, which Gary will go over with us.
Thank you, Mr. President. You do, there's 13 in total. Account 401, which is the county commission account, requesting permission to move $1,500 from 224, which is audit cost, to 221, which is training. Account 406, which is the assessor's office, requesting permission to move $200 from 219, which is rents, to 341, which is materials and supplies. Account 412, which is your extension service, requesting permission to move $5,000 from account 214, which is travel, to 341, materials and supplies. Another one, the first one from 416, which is your court security, requesting to move $100 from materials and supplies 341 to 214 travel. Another one from Mike Lang, account 416, to move $2,300 from material supplies 341 to 221, which is training. Another one from 416, $500 from material supplies 341 to 223, which is professional services. 424, which is your courthouse account, moves $600 from professional services 223 to 226, which is your insurance and bonds. And then in 428, the next one's just for clarification. This is to cover the annual maintenance contract for your voters registration voting machines. So there's several of them. You'll see all of this money going into maintenance repair equipment. So the first one, to move $20,000 from 219, which is rents, to 216. The second one from 222, which is dues and subscriptions, to 216, which is maintenance repair equipment, another $3,000. The third one is $10,000 from 223 professional services to 216 maintenance repair equipment, and then from materials and supplies 341 to maintenance repair equipment, another $20,000. It's like $67,000 for that maintenance contract. And the last one, $14,500 from 459, which is new equipment, to capital outlay new equipment, to 216 maintenance repair equipment. The sheriff is asking to move $8,000 from account 700, line item 345, which is uniforms, into his professional services 223, and that's it.
Very good. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Change of status. I have a new hire recommendation received from Jennifer Swisher, Director of Emergency Communications, for Michael DeLoof, Telecommunicator 1, with a salary of $50,341. That is effective 7/1/25. I have a letter of resignation received from Tim Zaya, Director of Community Corrections, for Crystal Tobin, Drug Screener Technician, effective 6/4/25. Letter of resignation received from Chad Weinbrenner, Deputy County Administrator, for Christopher Owens, a custodial employee, effective 6/6/25. And on the minutes, June 5th, everybody was here, so we'll leave them in. We have a 3-year grant for Berkeley County Sheriff's Office, and that is to combat domestic violent extremism through training programs, with a total award of $122,000, and there's no match to that grant. Engineering, our engineer Doug Smith has presented bond reduction for Red Hill Phase 13236-637, 311-332, 373-392, and that's final, That's tied to BCP file number 2505-146, and that is tied to 2505-145, 2112-447, 24016-177, and 2406-177, and 209-0237. That's LOC 719, and Doug recommends that reduction for Red Hill phase. Also have a letter of endorsement from the Teffrey Graham family and friends for a sale of, or to be able to serve beer and alcohol at a family and friends private event with the VFW on the VFW grounds. Do need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
We have a motion, need a second.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, ayes have it. We have nothing this week from the assessor, so I think that's probably a good thing. Thank you, Doug. That's a good thing as well. So, board meeting reports. Commissioner Hardy.
Oh, busy this week. Lots of boards and lots of meetings and lots of information. So I'll start off Monday night for my standing every other Monday date with the water board. Great meeting out there this week. Talked a little bit about all the stuff that's going on. I have what we call the executive director's report here. I'm just going to kind of breeze through that. An additional 85 new meters were installed in May. That brings the yearly total to 1,025 water meters that was installed in Berkeley County this year. The plans, most people know that there's a Wawa that's being built across from the rock station there on the corner of Rockcliffe Drive and Route 9, right down from Rudders. It was brought to my attention this week that there's also going to be a huge sheets built there. So going to be a lot of competition on that corner for cigarettes, beer, gas, junk food, all the above. So
satisfy all those Hedgesville people going west.
yeah, all those Hedgesville people either coming or going will have plenty of options to either rocks, rudders, Wawas, or sheets to get their wares. Working on a plan with the FO Day property out there. The water department owns a piece of property out there, kind of smack dab in the middle of that lot, was for future plans for a tower. They want the water department to move that tower on that property because it kind of will be in their secure area for the data center. So they're trying to work that out. Where they wanted to move to is not the most operable location, but we're trying to see if there can be some monetary exchange with them to maybe facilitate that, because the tank's going to have to be taller if they move it where they want to move it to. So let's see, what else do we have going on here? Had pre-bid went out, or the pre-bid stuff went out for the 43-inch water main. There was 10 contractors that showed up to bid that, which that's a lot to turn out for one of those pre-bids. And that's for the new main coming out of the expansion of the water plant, and then we'll also go over to CMC. So that was everything from my water department meeting. I do have a few things that me and President Goke and I are working on, a few concerns that we'll talk about later about some water development in the county, but we're going to keep our eye on that, and we'll keep you apprised of that situation. Had a great meeting with Region 9. The new president and CEO of WVU Medicine, and his name eludes me, I think his last name was Howard. I'm sorry, I can't remember his last name. But he came in and gave a great presentation, about a 20-minute presentation, on the $260 million expansion of Berkeley Medical Center and Jefferson Medical Center. So $200 million going to Berkeley Medical and another $60 million going to Jefferson Medical. Going to be a huge expansion. There'll be a pedestrian bridge, or auto bridge, I think, that's going to go across Tavern Road into the new parking area. They're going to have a transit bus that will pick you up and take you over to the hospital. The hospital is going to have a lot of new areas. So I'm excited about their brick and mortar plan. I still have concerns about the operations. It's, finding the people is always the hard part, and I know that they are working diligent on that. But So that was a great meeting, a lot of exciting news from the region, from our Region 9 meeting. And let's see, continuing to talk with constituents and taxpayers about the proposed levy for the Parks and Rec and impact fees. And as you can guess, some are happy about it, some are not happy about it. But trying to be as engaged as possible, trying to be as transparent as possible. So if anyone has any questions about impact fees or the proposed levy that the Parks and Rec wants to put out, please feel free to reach out to me, and I'll give you my honest opinion of how I feel and be as transparent as I can possibly be.
Very good, sir. Thank you. Commissioner Whitaker.
My meetings are next week, so I did not have any to report on this week.
Very good. Commissioner Catlett.
Along with yourself and Gary, our administrator, we spent 3 days at Stonewall Resort for the County Commission Association's annual conference. Great facility to host the thing for the second year, and I think they're going to continue to have it there each year. And I was very pleased with the turnout of the the commissioners around the state. We still have obviously a lot of counties that don't participate, but I think it's getting better each year. And I just wanted to mention some things about the conference. First of all, I want to congratulate you. Commissioner Goganair won the Shining Star Award for for that association for all the work he's done to help the state at the legislative agenda especially, and on that. I was a little disappointed that they have a Shining Star. Yours was the Rising Star, is what it's called. But the Shining Star goes to an employee that's recommended. Gary was nominated, and I was very disappointed he didn't win because he should have been.
It's Rick Hanley's fault.
It is. And then, of course, I was really disappointed for the county of the year. It should have been Berkeley County in my mind, but it was Mason County again. And I don't think anyone in this state has done more to help other counties than Berkeley County in the past year with the vehicles, with the 2 trailers of supplies, with the helping Jefferson County out, with all the things we have done. Gary has always reached out to anyone that's asked for help and tries to help those people from other counties, and I think it's great that we do that, and at some point he'll be rewarded for it. But we appreciate you, Gary, because you have led I think you have really led us to be as benevolent as we are to the other counties, and it comes from your leadership, and I want to thank you for that. So, also on Monday, we had the governor of the state of West Virginia there, Governor Morrissey. And he spoke for about, 15, 20 minutes, gave an address. He talked about a lot of things. He talked about the data center situation. But that was good to have him there. The following day, we had the state treasurer, Larry Pack, there, and he spoke and answered questions for a good hour or so. And I really liked what he had to say. And then State Senator, Finance Chair Jason Barrett showed up down there. I guess it was Monday evening. He was there with the Beer and Wine Conference. But we asked him to attend the following morning to the CCA conference, and he spoke for a few minutes and answered some questions. And it was good to get the other the other commissioners to see who he is in person and meet Jason. And they bombarded him with some questions later. And I told him how valuable he was in helping to protect our counties during this past legislative session. And I hope they appreciated that. So it was good to have him there. It was the annual meeting, so we had the election of officers. There's 6 regions in the state. They break it down into 6 regions. There was a little coup going on from the eastern region, which is our region, 7 to 8 counties or whatever we have here. The new president is Stephen Streckram from Hardy County. And the new vice president is Charles Dutch Staggs from Mineral County, both from our eastern region. And then each region gets 3 other appointees to the board of directors. And David Workman from Hardy County has returned. Myself has returned. And I'll be acting as the legislative chair for the region. And then a new member is Roger Domer from Pendleton County. So we'll obviously be well represented in the state association from the eastern region of this year.
Yeah, thank you. And your position as the legislative chair is critical to help move our issues forward, but also be mindful of other concerns that other counties have in a fair and just way. So thank you for your leadership there. It's
Well, and that's one of the other things I point out about the benevolence of Berkeley County. You know, our lobbyist reaches out and helps the whole state of West Virginia and the county commission association as well as she does us. And I know they're thankful for that. She works really close with the CCA and staff, and Melanie and the staff when it comes legislative time. So
yeah, they work very well together. That's for sure.
And they've reached out and been doing some federal work lately for us.
yes, they are. So it's good stuff, and I appreciate the staff at the CCA. They do a really good job. They put on a nice conference. They make everybody feel welcome, and it's just good. You know, all the years I was in Parks and Rec, and I was part of the state West Virginia Park and Rec Association. I was president. I was on the board of directors. That you learn more from the networking, just sitting around after dinner talking, than you do from the actual. A lot of times the speakers, but it's really good stuff, and hopefully as a group we can get the House of Delegates to help us out next year with the safety bill. So we'll see.
All right. Been kind of a busy week as well. I'd actually been invited to do a tour at Blue Ridge Technical Center, what I would consider the old Corning plant, in which Blue Ridge occupies a large portion of that building. And just a lot of great things going on there. But the base of the discussion was an opportunity that they may have coming forward to offer tuition assistance in different programs, online programs or on-site programs for our employees. And Gary and I met yesterday with Shepherd to discuss another opportunity for tuition assistance from Shepherd College as well. And they're starting to roll out some of their online classes as well. So those are just wonderful opportunities, I think, for our workforce, for them to be able to improve their educational opportunities and take advantage of their past experiences, perhaps with a Regents degree or something of that nature. As Steve mentioned, the Stonewall Conference, which is always good. It's always educational for us. Met yesterday with the Development Authority. Things there are moving. There's a lot of activity in Berkeley County with different agencies looking. We had a really large corporation look that we weren't able to. They needed a lot of water, so we weren't able to accommodate that particular group that wanted to come here. I don't know who they were, but another thing, John and I met last week with Bethany House, and as we discussed back last probably July, August, September, there was an opportunity that the Bethany House, which is a women's shelter and they house women and children, was going to be closed, and able to work through the United Way and through our different senators and delegates, and John was a delegate at that time that I had called to ask for some help, but just to be able to help them keep their doors open and get them on financial stability is really important to this community, that these folks and these children would not be turned out onto the street. So those things are just important. I do have a fire board meeting this evening, and tomorrow morning, as Commissioner Catlett said, and with Gary's always supporting, we'll be meeting with Putnam County to discuss their fire service and how they can improve and hopefully get staffing into their departments as well as Berkeley County has. So we're always willing to help. We always want to be a partner on stuff. So I think that's just what it takes to make everything work. So, on board and commissions, we do have a new application for Mark Thompson for the Roundhouse Authority. His application is in your packet. And next up is Deborah Hammond. She's with the William Henshaw chapter of the NSDAR, Proclamation of Flag Day. Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
Good to see you.
Good to see you. Good to see everyone.
Morning.
I just want to thank you so much for hosting us today. I am representing as the region-elect of the William Henshaw chapter, and I come before you with a Flag Day proclamation. Of course, this coming Saturday is Flag Day, but I want to tell you a little bit about our chapter and about DAR in general, because one of our missions is education, and particularly education as it pertains to history and also as it pertains to patriotism in our community and across the world. The William Henshaw chapter is actually the oldest DAR chapter in the state. We are this year 126 years old, and our founding regent was also the first state regent. She was a descendant of William Henshaw, hence the name. And you may be familiar, if you've ever been to the Christ Church down in Bunker Hill. Morgan, of course, the first European settler in that area, is buried there, as well as William Henshaw. So we have marked his grave with a DAR marker. I mentioned the education that we try to do. We have several pillars within DAR that are essential. Education, literacy, historic preservation, patriotism, genealogy, of course, because a large part of the process of becoming a member is to first research and discover your own patriot ancestor. So those are the pillars, and we try very hard within the community, within the state, within the world, actually, because we have chapters across the world as well as in the United States, to promote education about our patriot history and to, of course, support historic preservation efforts. Last Saturday, we were down in Shepherdstown for the new marker dedication, and that was to mark the 250th anniversary of the patriots who left Shepherdstown, which was then called Mecklenburg, on the famous Beeline March, 26-day march from Shepherdstown to Cambridge, Massachusetts. So if you can imagine the effort that those men put forth to make that, and that was at the call of the Continental Congress. And so, of course, that's also the background of Flag Day, as the Continental Congress established the first flag for the forces that were going to be in the field. So again, I thank you for having us. And I'd also like to introduce Pam Brush, who is our Vice Regent and also Vice Regent-elect.
Thank you. Would you like to read the proclamation this morning?
Certainly. Proclamation Flag Day, William Henshaw Chapter, NSDAR. Whereas on June 14, 1777, the Continental Congress approved the first official United States flag. And whereas President Benjamin Harrison, 1889 to 1893, husband of DAR First President General Caroline Scott Harrison, was the first to order that the American flag be flown above the White House. And whereas in 1916, President Wilson established June 14th as Flag Day, it is not an official federal holiday and flags are not lowered. And whereas June 14th, 2025 marks the 248th anniversary of our nation's flag, the Stars and Stripes. Now therefore be it resolved that the Berkeley County Commission proclaims June 14th, 2025 as Flag Day and encourages all citizens to fly the flag in accordance with the flag code adopted by the Congress of the United States April 5th, 1979.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I know that you guys are very, very active in this particular region, but thank you for keeping the history alive. And I know that you do a whole lot of activities. You participated in the 250th birthday celebration along with Berkeley County then, and you know, you folks come forward with Constitutional Day because we're challenged by Barbie when she comes in. And but I was also last year excited that there were a lot of younger folks being a part of that organization. So I think you're alive and well.
Yes,
Thank you.
indeed. We have, there is a CAR, which is Children of the Revolution, and they actually learn if they have family members who are DAR members. It's their chance to learn the process before they can officially become a member. So you'll see the young people at wreath layings and whatnot.
Yes, thank you. Okay, gentlemen, need a motion to adopt the proclamation.
So moved.
Second.
It's been properly moved and second. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I just have a quick comment. So I just wanted to reach out to you from being a former Boy Scout. Flag Day was always huge for us. We would sell little American flags for donations. We had the little American flags on the wooden stakes, and we would post up all over Berkeley County, and we would sell those little flags to raise money to go to Camp Rockingham. So that would help kind of supplement some kids didn't have the money to go for camp, or some needed supplemental help. And so every Flag Day, whatever day it fell on, we was out selling flags that day, you know, to raise money for the Boy Scouts. So, and also as one of my childhood friends' birthdays, so I always remember that. So, but thank you very much for being here today, and thank you for the proclamation.
Thank you.
Okay, it's been properly moved and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Ayes have it.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Good seeing you again.
Good to see you.
Thank you.
Next up is Tim Zaya, Community Corrections Director, presentation on Camp Esri. Good morning, Tim.
You guys heard of Camp Esri?
I had heard of it, but I don't know any details.
Anyone else?
2 days ago, when Gary mentioned it to us, that you were there. So
I had never heard of it either. First of all, you've heard of children being sex trafficked, right? Did you know that that happens in Martinsburg? It's
81, it happens on 81.
it happens in homes in Martinsburg, in Berkeley County. It's something that we kind of we know of, but we don't necessarily always think of it as happening right here. We provide substance abuse treatment to people whose addictions have become full-blown, and people who are in full-blown addiction, they begin to do crazy things to support their habit. So we're providing treatment to these people, and we're aware of their addiction. They talk about it, but some of the things that we don't always hear about are the really horrific stories of what people sometimes do to maintain their heroin, meth, cocaine addictions. And people that have small children sometimes begin to sell their children for sex to support their habits. And it's total insanity, but that's the nature of addiction sometimes. So set that thought aside for a moment. Patricia Rucker several different times encouraged Jonathan Board, the executive director of the West Virginia First Foundation, to go and tour Camp Esri. So he ended up scheduling a tour and asked me to come along. And I could very easily have found a couple of reasons not to go that particular day, but I did. I went. I didn't know what Camp Esri was. I hadn't heard of it. And what we did is we met this man. His name is Damon Albert. We met him in the Walmart parking lot, and he was going to lead us to the location of the camp. He said you got to have a 4-wheel drive vehicle, so he was going to drive some folks in there in his big truck. But I arrived in the parking lot. I was the first one there, and we were chatting for a minute. And I asked him where the camp was located, and he said He said it's off of Tuscarora Pike on a little lane called Panther Lane. You familiar with Panther Lane?
I know where that's at.
Yeah. So when he said that, I said, "Oh, I know a guy who used to own some property down there. His name was Sean Miller." And he said, "Well, that's who we bought the property from." So that was kind of unique, just because Sean's a friend of mine. Anyways, that's not really relevant to the story, but it's interesting to me. But we went to this camp, and he showed us around, and we spent about 2 hours there, him telling us what they do. He and his wife have been facilitating camps like this for 20 years or something like that. But it's always been on a kind of a side gig for him. About 5 years ago, when they purchased this property, he quit his job. His wife maintains employment for Washington County, Maryland, so that they can have steady income and health insurance. But they sold their house in Spring Mills, I think he said, and they bought a fifth wheel, and they parked this fifth wheel at this new camp location, and that's their home now. He's full-time Camp Esri. His wife still works for Washington County, Maryland, but for years and years, he's networked with a lot of law enforcement agencies in Pennsylvania and in Maryland, which is where most of their referrals come from. He has a large network of volunteers who come and assist with these camps. They do 9 and 10-year-old boys one week, 9 and 10-year-old girls the following week, 11 and 12-year-old boys, then 11 and 12-year-old girls. They have no more than 10 kids for 1 week at one of these camps. They have at least one adult volunteer per child. So the way that he's running this, I really appreciate. The camp is they come from a faith-based perspective. His theme verses, and I hope you'll go look at their website. It's campesri.org. They're also on Facebook. But his their theme verses is Psalm 121, verse 1 and 2. I lift up my eyes to the mountains. Where does my help come from? My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. Children don't really have, children's help comes from their parents, right? So these are kids whose parents have completely neglected them and abandoned their responsibility as parents and exposed them to all sorts of trauma. So they teach these kids, your help comes from the Lord, and they teach them about their identity. And they spend a week doing various activities, and all the activities, they use some scripture to teach them about who they are and teach them about their identity. And I believe that 1 week with people like this exposed to this sort of teaching could potentially change the trajectory of these kids' lives. Maybe not today or tomorrow or next month, but some years from now, the seeds that get planted in these kids' lives will grow. I think there's extraordinary value in what they're doing at this camp. So I was really impacted that day that I went out to tour this camp and started thinking about what maybe we could do to help him out. So I spoke with Mary Ann Roan, who's the director of I don't think they want recognition here, but she's the executive director of the Steely Foundation. Talked with her, told her about the camp. She said, we'd love to help them out. And then she connected me with a guy named Brandon DeHaven. Brandon DeHaven owns the pub in Bunker Hill. You familiar with it? Sits right on Route 11. It's called the Pub. He's a guy who is interested in trying to help causes like this. He's into the community. Later part of 2024, he did a fundraiser through the pub, and they donated all the money raised, which was matched by the Steely Foundation to Children's Home Society. So I called him. She connected me with him. I called him, told him about Camp Esri. He and Mary Ann went out and toured the camp. So they're doing a fundraiser now that's going to benefit Camp Esri. I intend on assisting them with writing a grant to the West Virginia First Foundation when there's another grant cycle that comes out to help them get funding for a road. The road, maybe you know this, Eddie, the road that goes back Panther Lane is terrible disrepair. Yeah. So, and that's only maybe $100,000, I think, to get the road built up and improved. He would like to construct a lodge back there that can accommodate groups to come in and use the facility for trainings or conferences or whatever to help generate long-term revenue for the camp to help sustain it. So I wanted to tell you all about it. The timing didn't work for Damon to come here. I'd like in the next month or two for Damon to come here and tell you himself about Camp Esri. I think you'll like him. He's a very likable guy. He's very passionate about the work that they do. It's really valuable work. I hope that all you all. So the fundraiser that Brandon Haven's doing at the pub, they sell food. It's a bar as well. It's a bar and grill. They're open, believe it or not, 7 days a week, 8 a.m. to midnight. Friday and Saturday they open to 1 a.m. But they sell breakfast, lunch, and dinner. They do specialty hot dogs. So all of his hot dog sales for the month of May and June, all the proceeds from his hot dog sales go to this fundraiser. His goal is to reach $10,000 before the end of June. I think he might be about halfway there. I wish I would have told you all about this sooner. But if you have a couple minutes, stop in there, say hello to Brandon. He's a very nice guy. And get your wallet out and hand him some cash to go towards the fundraiser. The Steely Foundation is going to match whatever he raises. So you give him $1, Camp Esri will get $2. It's a great cause, and I wanted to tell you all about it.
Thank you.
How are the kids to get there? I mean, how they
He's
recruit?
networked with law enforcement all throughout,
And
like
they're
the
the ones
tri.
that identify the children that need
Yes.
help.
Yep, and they connect them. He's got a variety of referral sources though, but it's primarily law enforcement people that he knows that direct these kids there.
Are there any judicial referrals? No?
He's still reasonably new to the area. Part of what I've been hoping to do is to connect him with people and get him to get
What was his name again?
Damon Albert.
And his wife?
I don't know his wife's name.
Is this a day camp, or do they have places for campers to stay there?
They live there for
Because I've been all the way back there. There was a house back there. The gentleman passed away, I think. I bought some stuff there. But
So if you go all the way back, you come to their little
okay,
their camp. There's a couple of RVs set up. There's a pavilion area. There's a couple of other outbuildings.
I got you.
There's a bunkhouse that they built for the
Okay.
kids to stay in.
There's a place for them to stay on site.
They help cook all their meals. The property borders Back Creek down there. They go down. There's a trail set up, and there's different stations along the trail. And there's families that have donated signs. And each of the stations along the trail has a lesson that they teach the kids. They do various activities, outdoor type activities that have lessons associated with them. You'd be impressed if you went out and met with them and had them show you around. I was.
I'd love to.
Well, you go down the road every day and you see people pass some in cars and pass them on the street, whoever. But you never know what that child or person has been through. You don't know what their story is. And stuff like this is very, very challenging, not just for them, but for people who have to try and solve their potential issues. So I'm glad there's somebody out here that has the heart and the desire to help those children who have found themselves in a very dark place at the hands of their family.
Yeah, go down and buy some hot dogs.
Yeah.
Make a donation.
That's the old Red and Betty's right there on Route 11 in Bunker Hill, just south of the little village of Bunker Hill. So, get some hot dogs.
Yep.
Very good, Tim. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you all. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Jim.
All right.
All right, next up is our Deputy Legal Director, Jeff Mawsey. Speak about a towing policy. Good morning, Jeff.
Morning.
The West Virginia State Code requires the county commission to adopt and periodically revise, look at, and reapprove a towing policy for the county to be used, basically, the 911 center and the sheriff's department. And in Berkeley County, that's basically the commission approves the policy, but the sheriff's department is the main force in administering it and dealing with the actual towing companies as far as accepting applications from them, reviewing them, checking out their operations to make sure that they fit all the requirements. So the policy that I have presented today is, I started with the old one, but made quite a few revisions to it. Tom Young and I worked on it a lot. He gave me a lot of suggestions. Jen Swisher was also involved, and some other folks, to kind of let everybody have some input, and I think vastly improved the policy. Some of the highlights of what's changed that are most important probably is some protections against situations where there's maybe a towing company that has some bad actor that they find out about, and the sheriff's department can take actions if they need to remove them from it or suspend them. Or if someone at one of those companies is doing something actively wrong, against the law, charging too much, whatever, the sheriff's department can institute basically sanctions against them of suspensions or eventually removal from the list. Everybody seems to, that we, Tom and Jen especially, seem very pleased with what we ended up with. And part of the code, it references making these policies in consultation with other agencies, which we've done, and with the towing companies themselves. So what I would propose is, if the council, or the commission rather, adopts this policy today, that I would draft a letter that the sheriff's department can send out to the towing companies that they have had on the list in the past, and just say, if you have any questions or concerns, reach out to us, and if anything comes of it, we can always revise the policy again. It doesn't have to, it doesn't require public hearing or anything like that. But it has been a while since it's been updated, and it needs to be revised.
Yeah, I know one of my concerns when I started reading was to make sure that there was a separation for a heavy record request, and I see that is there. They do maintain a separate heavy record request, and you've got a tractor and trailer rollover. You don't need somebody showing up with a rollback.
Yeah, a lot of the practical stuff I wouldn't know anything about, but Tom had a lot of input on that, and some of the more technical things. Also, Jen had some outside agency from other agencies that they had, other counties and so forth, that had looked at different issues that can pop up, that she had some input in that part of it as well.
So if this is adopted, how will these tow companies be notified?
Well, I said, I'll draft a letter and provide it to the sheriff's department, and they'll send the policy and the letter to all those companies that they have on the list, so that they'll know.
Yeah.
And then they have an application process where they provide the policy that's current at the time to them, along with other, any other information they need to make sure. And I believe part of the process is they send somebody to the site to make sure that it matches what their application says they have and what they're required.
Yeah.
From a legal perspective, you're good.
Yes. There aren't really many, there's no real guidance in that code section about what needs to be in it. And it's very vague, but it just says it needs to be updated with consultation. And it also doesn't really tell you what this consultation needs. that's.
Yeah, and I tell you, in which it's certainly, I don't believe it's in our purview, but I've seen with my years out, in particular working on the interstate on major accidents, that there have been tow companies show up and they did not have, they had the equipment, they had the truck, but they did not really and truly have the training and the expertise. So we were partner in a training program, Rec Masters, a number of years ago, and a lot of different agencies, especially the heavy wreckers, participated in. And I'm not sure that today that they, still acquire that particular training, but it's very worthwhile. And I'm certainly not saying that a tow company has to have that level of training, but somewhere along the line, you would hope that their professional level would grow to that point, where you're just not using a regular old log chain to hook onto a vehicle. You actually have a tow chain and the right equipment. So maybe somewhere down the road, like I said, I'm not sure that's our responsibility, but anyway. Everybody's had an opportunity to look over the policy. Okay, need a motion to adopt the reference towing policy as presented.
I would make a motion to do that, sir.
The motion, I need a second.
Yeah, I'll second that.
It's been properly motion, second. Any further discussion?
Yeah, just a quick question. So in the policy, I'm sure there's been, with the policy being updated, there's nothing in there that's like super onerous for tow companies to meet some crazy guidelines.
I mean, no, I don't, there's nothing.
It's just industry standards.
Yeah, and, kind of,
Right.
best practice.
Yeah, best practice industry standards.
Well, and just making sure that they have the right kind of facility. It's not, deep requirements, but it's just, you got to have.
We want to make sure they have the right
you need to
equipment
have
and the
somebody
right.
that's going to be responsible to,
right.
a person comes in on a Sunday, they need
Right.
to be able to
Yep.
talk to you.
And then the next question is, if they do, for lack of a better term, get blackballed by the sheriff's department or whoever is contacting them, if there's been some infraction or something that's been a violation that the sheriff finds or thinks, or the dispatch thinks, is there a reciprocity? Is there some type of where they could come in and have like arbitration, or is there something in there where there could be, or
Well, there's nothing quite like that specified in the policy. The way
Right.
it's written right now.
okay,
That's something I
Take that
think
into consideration.
be worked out by the sheriff and that tow company.
Right.
Work out a
Yeah, I mean,
resolution.
it's not contemplated that basically they would, generally, the way it's written, I believe it's kind of, there's steps involved, so
Right.
it's not.
but there is a process in
first
place,
thing-
or right,
Yeah, it's not just somebody just randomly picks somebody and says, oh, I don't like this guy. He's
yeah. I mean, in the towing industry, there's a history in the towing industry of having favorites, and certain companies getting
Well, yeah.
calls and other.
And that's why the policy, that's one of the goals of the policy, is to make it a rotation that is followed.
Right.
that is fair to everybody and gives everybody equal
That's exactly what I was looking for, Jeff.
at the work, basically.
So the 911 center maintains the tow list, and it does go through a rotation.
Okay.
Know this, that the person in the accident can choose the wrecker. So
Sure,
if they
yeah.
want to call Hardy Towing, the sheriff's department.
Certainly.
Right, but absolutely, there's been a tow rotation for several years at 911.
If I remember correctly, Mr. President, there has been a tow company that has come in and kind of gave us a grievance that they weren't being called, but come to find out there were certain qualifications that they didn't meet. And then that was, so I would say there's an opportunity on public comment if somebody needs to come in.
Certainly, I mean, yeah, it is the commission's policy ultimately, so
It's surprising how many towing companies there are, though.
it is.
Pretty lucrative business.
It is. Very competitive.
Also, keep in mind that the West Virginia State Police does not adhere to our policy. They have their own, whoever the trooper calls for, that's who they get sent to. So I don't know how that works with rotation. I don't know, but I know that the state police is not going to follow a rotation.
Yeah,
So the
and-
trooper just calls who they really want to call?
Yeah, we can't really enforce it against them. And then the city of Martinsburg would be responsible for instituting their own policy as well, because it's every county commission or municipality.
I know when I've had to have a vehicle towed on private property, still the deputy comes out and does an assessment. Says that, I mean, I've called the tow company, but still the deputy comes out and says, okay, yeah, go ahead. There's a catch-all in there too.
Okay, it's been moved in second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, ayes have it. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
Okay, we're going to take a little bit of a break, and we'll be back shortly. Thank you.
We're going to get.
All right, we're back in session. Next up, Chad Weimer, Deputy County Administrator, on step and pay grade scales.
Morning.
Morning, sir.
Morning. You know, Chad came an hour early. He was so excited for this, by the way. If you
Yeah,
noticed,
so
he was-
it's been. I thought my time was 10:15. Gary texted me, said, "Why are you here? Your scales, your time's 10:45." It's been a busy week. We're in front of you this morning for step and pay grade scale adjustments. So in the county, there are 4 grade scales that have been approved and in place for quite some time. It's the deputy sheriff's, court security, firefighter, and emergency communications. This is simply a clerical change to go along with the pay raises that you approved with next year's budget to go into effect on July 1. To give pay raises within these scales, we must adjust the scales at the rate that you approved. So you approved 5% pay raises. The 3 of the 4 scales must be adjusted by that 5% to make sure that those employees land in the correct step and grade for where they are. You approved the deputy sheriffs to have a $5,000 across the board pay raise, so that scale then must also be adjusted at $5,000 across all. This does not change any rank structure. It does not do anything for, it doesn't change the structure of these scales. It doesn't do anything for their seniority. It simply adjusts the scales to the amount of the pay raises that you had approved. Also worth noting, along with the pay raises, you had placed a $4,000 cap on any employee who made $80,000 or more, and that will also be in effect within these as well. There's very few employees that are affected by it. They will be slightly out of grade, but we're able to handle that on the clerical end on our part.
It didn't create too much of a dilemma.
No, sir.
And clearly, the commission understands, you know, if you don't make these changes and slide the scales, the very next year, you've got people messed up. So it's just a matter of housekeeping and something that has to happen.
Yeah, and like I said, these are not new raises. This is what was budgeted with your approval.
Yeah, well, it's just basically quantifying what we did.
Yes, sir.
And get it, make sure that when they do qualify for those step increases, that the steps are correct.
That's
for
absolutely-
their
yes, sir.
next pay grade. So, everybody okay? Everybody understand what Chad's presenting?
Yes.
Very good.
Very
Okay.
clear.
Need a motion to approve.
So moved, Mr. President.
It's been moved
Second.
and second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Ayes have it. Thank you, Chad. And next up is the COPS grant.
So if it's okay with you, COPS and SAFER are very similar. I just kind of like to present them both to you at once and then take questions, because the questions you have will most likely apply to both of them. I brought Elizabeth with me today. She has done a fantastic job getting everything prepared for your approval. She put together the charts in here, which I think very clearly outline what the commission would spend should these grants be approved. I think this is the first time we've ever went into these grants with the picture quite so clear as to, you know, what the actual dollars are across the entire life of the grant. And with a grant like the COPS grant is where those monies run out. So what we're asking for today is permission to apply for 2 separate grants. One is the COPS hiring grant, which that is a grant through the United States Department of Justice and the Office of Community-Oriented Policing Services, which is what COPS stands for. It's a 36-month grant. We're requesting to apply for 5 deputy positions. How the COPS grant works is that grant is flat funded at a dollar amount per officer, which, Elizabeth, it is $125,000 per officer, and that is for the life of the grant. So whenever that $125,000 runs out over that 36 months, that is where the county starts to kick in. It also has a 25% match to it. So if we look at 5 deputies and you reference that scale, you would have the grant working to compensate those deputies through year 2, quarter 2. So after a year and a half, after about 18 months, that grant money would run out. You are on the hook for that grant for 3 years and then you have to retain those officers for an additional 2 years. Now, we know that retaining the officers is not an issue, but the DOJ puts that in there just to make sure that when the grant runs out, counties don't automatically take those positions, off of their record. It's not something that we've ever done and could not imagine doing. But with the COPS grant, the county share for this 36 months on 5 officers is actually higher than what the grant share is. Grant share is $468,750. There's a 25% match to that, which that match amount is $156,250. And then the post-cap coverage that the county would be responsible to cover following the grant and the match running out would be $674,468. So that is the COPS grant.
Question.
Yes.
What I was confused was on this part, because can we use that 125,000 just for their salary alone and benefits? Or is that what it's used for?
Yes, that's
totally what it's used for.
Yes, this does
So
not
it would be
cover any of their
salary and
outfit.
benefits, okay.
Yes.
And that runs out after about halfway through then?
Yes, sir.
So, yeah, okay. Because it would come out to what, about 75,000 a year, somewhere in that neighborhood, probably?
So we have you mean per officer?
Per officer.
So we have calculated their post-academy rate, all-in benefit at 86,631.
Yeah.
And remember,
That's for benefits.
your deputy sheriffs, you have a 16% or 17% contribution rate into their retirement, which is one of the things that pushes their total compensation significantly higher.
Now, but when they, if they do overtime and stuff, how does all that?
This grant doesn't cover any overtime money.
Right, that would be on us as well.
As well as outfitting.
Now, as far as outfitting goes, I would think that we could use, hopefully, the impact fees to outfit those people, so.
As well as cruisers.
Right, and their cruiser.
That's what he's
right.
getting at.
So, okay.
Yeah, so I have a question. So I'm looking at this of the county post cap, and 108,289 is what we figure per officer.
Yes.
Right. So that 674 is all in for all 5 is what we're on the hook for.
Yes, that's your all. So your total grant that's going to cover this 3 years is $1,299,466.
Right.
Yeah, and that.
And without impact fees, it'd be a whole lot more than that, because we'd have to equip them and get their cruiser and all that, so.
So what you're looking at, your 108,289, that's what covers. We broke this down by quarter, so that's what covers 5 officers per
Yeah,
quarter.
I see it. Yeah. I didn't know that 108,289 was what it was per officer, but I guess that's for.
No, that's not per officer. That's per quarter for 5 officers.
Okay. All right. Gotcha. Now I'm tracking.
Yeah, I had kind of been bugging Elizabeth like every other week probably, but hey, when does these COP grants come up?
Right.
When does the SAFO grant come
Well,
up?
yeah.
But and she's been very diligent in keeping track of that. My only question really is, Gary, are we good with our match and picking these guys up?
So realizing that this would hit you in your next fiscal year, but I think what you have to understand is at the end of the 3, you're on the hook for 1.3 million.
Right.
That's really what this says. In 3 years, your new contribution to the Sheriff's Department for purpose of compensation, minus any activity like you just approved a minute ago, is 1.3 million. The natural growth in your budget has been about 1.6 for 5-6 years. You're talking about 3 years out. So as we go through and we work through the budget, we want to be you would want to be cognizant that, hey, in 3 budget cycles from now, we have to have that much sit here ready to be used forever. So the answer to your question is yes, sir, you could, but that will impact your available monies. You're essentially spending some growth money now.
Understand, but for the first year and a half,
Yeah,
these
the
employees
156
will be on the grant without a doubt.
you owe 156,250 immediately. The first year 2 Q2 up through year 2 Q2.
Okay.
Yeah, you're fine with that, and then year 2 quarter 3, you see as it starts to step. So
Right.
yeah, you're okay growing at that rate. The important thing is just to remember at the end of 3 years, you've increased salaries and benefits to the tune of 1.3 million for the Sheriff's Department, which is
When will you know, Elizabeth, if we get approved?
Oh, yes.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure. The period of performance start date is October 1. So
It'll probably be awarded like in August.
Typically
So
August or
then my next
September is what we
question
see.
is, does it go into effect at the point they're hired?
It does.
it does,
Okay,
and it-
so in other words, do you have to hire all 5 at the same time? Or if you hire one, it goes into effect for 3 years for that person, and a couple months later, you hire?
Yeah, so what we would do for the sheriff, and I've already talked to the chief about this, is if this grant were awarded, they would basically have to take these 5 positions and move them to the front of their vacancies. So the next 5 people they hire would be
Next
grant.
5.
Because you begin to lose the second you don't hire.
So, first question for you. Natural growth of the county's budget or revenue is
About 1.6.
1.6 is the natural growth. This is for 5 new positions at the sheriff's department, right? 5 additional. So that would take us from 67.
68. Yeah, 68.
We have 68 right now.
Yes, sir.
That takes us to 73. And how many vacancies do we have right now?
7.
Right? So we would take these 5 positions, but move them, the
To the front
first
of the
5
7.
guys that are hired are going to fall under this grant.
That's correct.
So we're getting 5 deputies for $674,000 for the next 3 years.
For the next 3.
And then your annual, I just did the quick math. It's tough because you look at their step and grade and how they move through that. They have a lot of growth within their first 4 years because they'll move from deputy 1, deputy 2. But you're roughly on an annual basis, if those 5 are retained, about $450,000 a year starting year 1 because their all-in salary coming out of academies 86.3. Their next raise to a deputy 1 takes them up another $2,500. So now you're starting to push $90,000 all in, and then probably by the end of this 3-year period, most of these guys will be looking at being a deputy 2, which would then push them up an additional $2,500.
How often does this grant reset? This is a 36-month grant,
It's a 36-month grant, yeah.
and probably back around 30 months, 32 months is when it starts. Will we start applying for another one?
So we could apply for COPS grants every year. But these are for only new positions. We cannot apply to fund existing positions.
Right.
So
But in 3 years, when this grant's over, right, we're on the hook for 1.298 or 99, right? But most likely, there may be other grants available.
You just retired a comps grant. When did that one go away, Elizabeth? Last fiscal?
technically, like just now,
Okay.
because of the retaining period.
I
Right,
think that was 3, correct?
4.
4.
right,
So you've leveraged it for years.
right.
This is really designed, sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, go
interrupt.
ahead.
This is really designed to help spark hiring in organizations. This commission has adopted, and you've been driven to grow that force for several years. This just helps on the front end, but as you can see with the pay scale that you have with your officers, it's only good for, about a year and a half, and then it's gone. And
Yeah, but it's still a year, I mean, it's still a year and a half, and
Good money.
obviously, we have to grow that agency anyway. I mean, that's one of the agencies that I am concerned about.
Right.
And, contrary to popular belief, deputy sheriffs and parks and recs are the two that I'm most I'm concerned about. Parks and rec may not believe that, but it's true. And we need to grow that organization, and this is the first,
It helps.
it helps. It takes all that first sting out of it. And we're hopeful that there'll be another grant on the tail end of this one.
Okay, like Elizabeth said, you're retiring one with 4 officers, and here you go right after 5 more.
Yeah.
One more question.
No, go ahead, sir.
When you hire these people under the grant, do they have to be new people in the law enforcement? You couldn't hire somebody that has.
Yeah, it's just a new position you can hire.
So they could be somebody that was already certified, and
Sure.
already been that, and come from another department, that would be included.
Yeah, so the
Okay.
caveat to that is the grant monies will only cover the cost of what we have budgeted for a new officer. So if the sheriff's department has a program where they accelerate higher and they compensate those people
And
better.
they would get paid
So
a higher
we
rate
would have to
because
pay
of
the
their
difference on
experience.
that. It would be negligible, but the grant couldn't automatically adjust to cover the difference.
So if we are successful in receiving this grant and we get fully staffed, we'll be at 72.
That is correct. 3.
70,
68 right now,
I
73.
thought we were adding 5.
okay, 73, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I can take my
68
shoes,
and 5.
take my shoes off here so I can count this up.
Mr. Lyman Burke was my teacher in Hedgesville High School, and he taught me that, so. 3.
Well, you did a good job, sir.
He did.
So I think that, you know, every one of us sitting up here, you know, have said that, you know, public safety has certainly been one of our main issues. You know, the sheriff has been before us and says that he's drastically understaffed. And as long as we're financially capable of doing this, and Mr. Wine says that we are, I absolutely support applying for this grant. You know, there will be a lot of agencies across this country won't be able to do that because they won't be able to meet the match. And also, I don't think that they'll be able to show as strong of a need because of our growth as compared to a lot of other agencies. So I think we would stand a very good opportunity of winning this award, plus with Elizabeth's professionalism and abilities of writing. So,
So we should know by October 1st, hopefully.
so
Great.
is there any further discussion on this COPS grant? If not, I'd like to have a motion to approve it.
I would make that motion to approve this grant process to apply.
Yeah, I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Ayes have it. Thank you. And next up is the SAFER grant for firefighters.
So the SAFER grant is a much easier formula, to understand of how it's awarded. We applied for the SAFER grant last year. Unfortunately, we were not successful. And last year, it was 100% coverage across all 3 years. FEMA tends to change year to year when they come out with this. This year, they've released a new formula. So for the first 2 years, it covers 75%. And for the third year, it covers 35%. So it steps down. And I saw a typo. Sorry, that's my fault. It steps down on year 3, but if you look, you are only for the life of this grant. There's no second or there's no third line for county match not covered by the grant. You only have FEMA coverage and you have required grant. So with this grant, if we're asking for 12 firefighters at a all-in cost of $83,591 per firefighter, over a 3-year period, the grant would pay $1,855,724, and the county match that would be $1,153,564. One of the reasons, and I know this question will come up, we are significantly, and I know Commissioner Gokenauer can attest to this, we are significantly behind the ball on NFPA standards for staffing for firefighters for their levels of safety. We're trying to get up to that. That's one of the reasons that we're requesting 12. Our firemen are about ready to be deployed across all 5 stations. This is also a consistent reapply for what we did last year. Elizabeth has already began to work on this application. She has reached out to some of the folks who are responsible for reviewing these applications at the federal level to start getting some feedback on our narrative and to find ways that we can continue to strengthen this narrative. But the FEMA funds, while easier to understand, if we're following politics federally right now, they're also a little more volatile. So FEMA doesn't do as good of a job at closing their grants out as DOJ does, so we have no set in stone award date. We just hear when they begin to award. They release every week for I think a period of 12 weeks.
And it says no later than.
But that wasn't really consistent with what we experienced last year.
Just because they say it doesn't mean it.
Yeah. And there's not a rhyme or reason to how they release. We have to log on to a website every Thursday, I think, Thursday morning, and check to see if our name's on there. It's a little different process with a FEMA grant. But apparently the money has already been encumbered federally, so they have a guaranteed award this year, from what we're understanding. So we'll see how it goes. But FEMA's
Is it 12 or none, or can you just hire 6?
12 or none, isn't it?
12 or none?
well, I mean, what we're applying
What you
for.
asked for.
Yeah, it's what you asked for. I mean, we could step it down and ask for 6. So I'll tell you the theory behind 12 is knowing where the fire department is right now. So they're staffing units. We're trying to get additional personnel into these stations in the form of floats, and we're trying to get that evenly distributed out to the stations that need it. So the number
It would take
12,
12 to do this.
the number 12
efficiently
works.
through
Yeah.
that system.
So no different than the sheriff's department, just so the commission understands, as you grow and you build your fire department, you're not there, right? This is just another step in getting there. I think we identified back, it's close to 70 is the number that puts all 5 of the stations at NFPA standards and
I
protects.
heard as high as 80 at one time from
I
somebody.
don't believe so.
Yeah,
But
70 for some, at least.
it is.
Minimum.
And all of this, as you grow public safety, as you protect the citizens, there's standards everywhere. You've heard the president, because the sheriff has said it in many instances. They're slated for like 140 officers, so many per 100,000 people or per 1,000, whatever it is. Well, when it comes to firemen, NFPA, it's all about safety for them, right? And right now, when you operate, it takes the arrival of a couple different stations and your staff to get there before they're truly to the standard on the scene. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. President.
Yes, sir.
But,
You're right on.
so this is just another gyration of the county commission trying to expand public safety. And in this instance, it's a little less impactful, year by year, quarter by year. But at the end, you're all in at $3 million in year 4. So you take that with the $1 million that you just committed for that. So essentially $4 million in budget year number 4 now.
What's our number of paid fire staff right now?
36?
36.
And this is an additional 12.
Yes, sir.
And Steve, I think to your point,
I thought it was, yeah.
the number
Not to be bad, I thought we had 22 and we hired 12, because it's 34.
well, we hired 12 from the fire board, and then we condensed a part-time position, and we hired 3 additional on top of that. So we have 15 through this academy.
Oh, we do?
Yes, we do.
And we pulled Randy and Sean out of the Berkeley fire budget, and they're now over in the 911 budget.
You didn't spend any extra monies to get to
do
that number.
Okay.
So we moved 2 out of the fire board and into the 911.
That's you moved them out of the fire
Were
department
they,
into
were
the
they
911.
counted
You
in
did.
that 22?
No,
Randy?
No.
they were not.
And we haven't hired these 12 yet. Till we
No, sir.
No, sir.
This is all-
So, but now if this grant is awarded, we're on the hook for 25% year 1, 25% year 2, and then year 3 we're on the hook for 65%, and then year 4 it's the full Monty.
Roger that.
If there's no other grants.
Roger. And there won't be other grants to help
Once they're on staff.
to help fund these 12.
Right.
Yeah, that's the end.
You're on the hook for it.
And that would be roughly about $1,003,000 a year prior to any additional changes in their structure.
But year 4 it's 3 million.
So the total spend at the end of year 3 is $3 million. That's the total spend between grant and match.
Right.
The annual recurring every year to cover these 12 is $1,003,092.
Oh, I read it wrong. My
At
apologies.
100%?
Yeah.
Year 4.
Yeah.
My mistake.
So we're only on the hook for a million.
Yeah. So you have 83,591 per fireman all-in compensation.
Okay.
My mistake.
Gary scared me when he said
I'm sorry.
3 million.
And I knew better, but I read it wrong. That's
That's
my mistake.
okay.
So Gary, I'll ask you the same question I asked you when we had the COPS grant. Are we financially, we'll be able
Your
to?
natural growth
Yes, sir.
that we've seen for the last 5 years has been right there. It was smaller this year into your pocket because of the TIF, but historically, TIF year 1, historically, yes, that's what you've seen.
And I'm going to ask this in year, I certainly understand in the first 3 years, we're fine.
Right.
it's year 4
Right.
that I'm thinking about. You say we're financially there with the natural growth of the economy of the county without raising fire fees again. I mean, so we're not going to have to go, I mean, not saying that we won't have to at some point in time, but I'm saying in year 4,
Right.
because we hired these here, are we going to have to go back to the fire fee to cover? But you say we're not.
I would propose that as we move forward through the next 3 budget cycles, we continue to set the piece for that year over here and
Yeah.
wait, and peel it off a little bit so we don't get to year 4 and try and take all of it at once.
Okay.
Yes, sir, I would be comfortable saying you will get there without raising fees or the levy rate.
Okay, that's all I wanted to
And
hear.
here's my response to that is that the voters just voted on a fire increase on non-residential. That's bringing in substantial money for the fire board to buy stuff. And impact fees again is coming into play. That's going to help offset the need for that stuff as well. And so that makes this a
Yeah,
whole lot easier to absorb in my mind.
Because they can use that towards capital.
And the county commission has built a great relationship with the fire service board. They are partners with you on the first 12 that you just hired.
Right.
There isn't anything to say that a couple years from now, we don't partner again and they help you absorb this, right? This may not come 100% on the shoulders of the county commission,
Sure.
but my statement to you is that I would be comfortable saying that in year 4, you will be able to support it with your natural growth. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Well, and the other thing that comes into play is like the public safety building that will be built, hopefully with TIF funds. So it prevents the fire board and the ambulance authority from having to call for extra money for a facility that hopefully those TIF funds will be able to cover that. And the impact fees, as Commissioner Catlett mentioned, hopefully we'll be able to offset or cover costs of additional needed equipment as identified by the fire service to be supported. So there's additional monies coming in, but if we can't get people in the seats to get them out and get them out safely, that's really important. So
It'll be a whole lot easier to fill these positions than it is the deputy positions.
it will be. Okay, any further discussion on this?
No, sir.
Okay, need a motion to approve?
So moved, Mr. President.
Been moved? Need a second. And properly second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, ayes have it. Thank you, Chad and Elizabeth.
Yeah.
And thank each one of you commissioners and the county administrator. You know, we've been saying it for years, that our biggest responsibility has been public safety. And I like to commend every one of you for putting those efforts in and getting this stuff accomplished. It's a big deal for this county to be able to respond when somebody calls for help. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, Gary Wine.
So, as the commission may or not know, this is the last opportunity for you as the governing body of the county to submit to the state the final budget revision to address any deficiencies or assume any additional revenues that have been generated. The 15th of the month is the last day. So here we go. You have $244,009 to assume. $50,000 of that was a receipt from a partial settlement from Pfizer, and when the Attorney General sued them, you have $50,000 that came directly to the county. That's all I can offer, and then $194,009 of other reimbursements that came from everywhere, from IT services to DRC grants and things of that nature. So I'll walk you through where I'm proposing that you approve putting that money. $26,400 would go into account 411, which is the fiduciary supervisor Young Will's account. $123,000 would go into 416, which is your circuit court account, court security. If you remember, you approved a deputy chief court marshal as well as a promotion to an assistant chief months ago. I never touched that account. There were some vacancies, so I kind of let it ride to now. So this is just me addressing the salary. It's fixed for next year, but for purposes of this year, I just waited till the end to do it one time. Building inspections, $10,000. Federal grants, $35,000. A decrease in your contingency by $83,991. 701s, which is service of process, an increase of $4,000. That's driven by overtime services that were grant reimbursements. Again, I just let it run for the year. Actually, this is the second time, so that's all grant money. $42,000 into 7-Eleven, which is your fire department. That's some overtime for the new staff and some uniforms and things of that nature. 802, which is your transport division, $68,600. That's grant reimbursements. And then 960, 19,000, that's your debt service for vehicles. If you remember, we bought a new transport vehicle, but all the outfitting and stuff that had happened with all of the new cars bought from the fiscal year prior, or this fiscal year from the beginning, I just waited till the end to fix it. A lot of that's grant money drawn down too. So the all in and out is $244,009. And this is the last time we can, again, make a state budget revision. So we've got to, that's it. PO should be really small the next couple of weeks.
Okay.
Skinny, skinny, skinny.
Motion to approve the state budget revision.
So moved.
A second.
To move and second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Ayes have it. Thank you. And Gary, next up would be your motion to approve the MOUs.
So an historic effort is at foot, gentlemen. You have facilitated yourselves getting professional, full-time, 24/7, 365 firefighters in all 5 volunteer stations in Berkeley County. The MOU was approved, reviewed by legal, submitted to all 5 departments, all 5 volunteer fire chiefs, all 5 board presidents of the volunteer company, your professional fire chief, and the document lays on your read ahead for the president's signature to codify and ensure that July 1,
It's going to happen.
when they dial 911, they get a professional firefighter, morning, noon, night, holiday, weekend, it doesn't matter. So kudos to you, and if the commission so chooses, the thing gets executed, the president signs it, and you're in business.
That's a lot of signatures required. That's a lot of organizational wherewithal and a lot of maneuvering. And I appreciate President Gokenhauer's work on that. I think it takes a unique perspective and a unique background to be able to get all of those personalities together and make that happen. And I'm very appreciative of that. And excited to have 24-hour professional fire coverage for Berkeley County.
And I want to express our appreciation to the fire board itself
Yes.
for making this happen, because without their support and match, I don't think we could have done this.
When you think of the business units involved, the fire board, the fire service board, the volunteer fire company, the chief of that fire company, your chief, and you 5, it's amazing.
Years ago, when first got up here elected, I mean, it was always the goal to make sure that we gave the services to the county, and Eddie did a wonderful job with that in the position of Berkeley Fire. I can remember very prominently some heated discussions about it with the volunteer stations, but this shows the testament that everybody had the same eye on the prize, Berkeley County. It will be one of the best things that we could have ever done.
Been at a CCA association meeting and listened to the horror stories of fire service and ambulance service around the state of West Virginia. And I mean, it's scary, where they can't even get a truck to a fire. It takes hours. And to get us to this level in both of those areas is just wonderful.
There are areas it takes an hour and 20 minutes to get an ambulance
Say
there.
our ambulance average response time for ambulance is 8.6 minutes, 8.5 minutes.
Yeah, in other places, they measure by hours.
Yeah.
I mean, they Tucker County, 250,000 skiers or recreational users, and on any given weekend,
Right.
they have 1 ambulance. And if you get a broken leg, it's a 3-hour wait.
Yeah.
So you get in your truck or the back of your car, and your wife or family member drives you to Elkins to the doctor because there's no ambulance coming.
And I'm sure the CVBs don't want that to get out. You know?
Yeah, right. So on this, as every one of you mentioned, there's been a lot of work done by a lot of people over a long period of time. Donna Cross with the Fire Board, in her leadership there and her willingness to help and understand the needs. Adam Malk as our current chair, and Hunter Wilson as the past chair of the Fire Service Board, worked to get the commercial fee established to get us in a position where we could make these magnificent changes. Without Gary's support, his staff support, Chief Roberts, in all of the volunteer fire departments, the chief's signatures are on there, but all of these documents went before their departments, their president's signature, their fire chief's signatures, but it also went before their departments for approval. And I just want to thank everybody that was involved in this. It will still have its little bit of quirks and bumps and stuff like that, but they will work out, because that's what's best for this community. That when somebody calls for help, that help is on the way, and that's just been so critically important. But there's been a lot of people, including this commission, made a tremendous investment in public safety. Not just today, but we made a really huge investment. But I'm just saying, over the period of time to get us to where we are today, and as Steve mentioned, with the County Community Association, they're always approaching us. How do you do this? How did you do this? Tomorrow we have a meeting with Putnam County to help show them the way of being able to start career fire service, because of their growth in Putnam and their lack of help otherwise. So thank every one of you for everything that you've done. Everybody that I mentioned, I'm sure I missed some folks. But I need a motion to approve the MOUs.
So moved.
And authorize the president's signature.
And authorize the president to sign.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Ayes have it. Thank you very much.
Been a really good meeting today,
It was,
Mr. President.
It was a good meeting.
A good day for Berkeley County, as Tony Creedy would say. It's a good day to be a Mountaineer. It's a good day to be a Berkeley County.
Absolutely. Okay, let the record show there is nobody from the public here. I need a motion for recess.
Mr. President, I move that we recess.
We are in recess.